We're going to go ahead and get started with a roll call. I am Brian Stuckey, the chair. Obviously, I am here. Megan, I believe, is not going to be joining us. Is that correct? Megan, are you there online? No? Ken? I'm here. Pamela? Online? No? No. Okay. Larry? Cece? Here. And Margaret. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes from last meeting? They should have been emailed to you. Any objections, changes? I don't think we need to have a motion for that, so. Okay. Moving on, item 3, did we get any public comment ahead of time?
No, we have not.
No public comment. Moving right along here. So I think this meeting is mostly to hear from the applicants a little bit about the merits of their grant. It also gives an opportunity for us as an LTAC committee to ask them questions. So do feel free to ask them questions. The scoring sheets are actually not due today. They're due before our next meeting. So use the input you received today to kind of help you in scoring. And we'll go over that after the presentations. I think that the only applicant that is not present is the Gary Oak Society. And real quick, they're asking for $3,036, very specific number, to advertise their activities in the form of a brochure to appear on the Washington State ferries. They are not here, but it looks like everybody else is. And we're going to go to hear from the applicants. You're going to come up to the mic, or if you're online, we're going to hear from you folks in the order that you applied. So who do we have first, Wendy? Is it the airport?
It is the airport. And I just want to also note that Megan did join us.
Oh,
online.
Megan is online. Oh,
Yes.
excellent. Okay. Sir, do you want to go ahead and step up to the mic, kind of go brief recap, anything you think we should know, and then we have the opportunity to ask questions if necessary.
Well,
So start with your name as well.
good morning. Don Meehan, and I know quite a few of you folks. I remember having dinner with Margaret and her husband when they moved to the island, about the same time I did in 1982. I know Larry Munns quite well from his interaction with his wife in the Master Gardener program. Anyway, my role today is to represent the De Laurentiis Airport. The De Laurentiis Airport is, all of us know, the Oak Harbor Airport. And so Robert De Laurentiis is the new owner, and some of you may very well understand that I was helping to lead the charge to make it a publicly owned airport. When that failed, I told Robert right away that I would be his #1 volunteer. Hence, I'm here today because I want to have a good airport for our island here. I'm also a pilot and have been housed with my airplane out there at the airport for 26 years. And so I'm very passionate about what we're doing there. And so this proposal that Robert put forth today, he can't be here, he's down in Reno right now, but he put this thing forward with the idea that we wanted to connect to Oak Harbor as an airport, unlike in the past. And I can speak about the past because I've been there for a long time. His proposal is to have a car, loaner cars available to the pilots and people who come to the airport. We've never, ever, to my knowledge, had loaner cars at the Oak Harbor Airport. Yes, back in the 80s, I was one of many who used Harbor Airlines to come in and out of that airport. We had a very, very strong connection with the Navy, and so a lot of Navy personnel came in and out of that airport. We're in the process at the De Laurentiis Airport to revitalize that and have conversations with Ken Moore and the Navy right now, seeing if we can't bring some of that back. But the thing that is important here for you folks, in my mind, is that you need to realize that the sleepy little Oak Harbor Airport that has been there for years and years and struggling through ownership issues and so on and so forth, is being totally revitalized. It is, when we end this year, you're going to see what looks like a brand new airport there, which means that Mr. De Laurentiis is spending a lot of money, his money, to revitalize the airport. And me, as a owner of an aircraft and utilizing the services there, I'm going to, and already realize that much of the hangar that I have my airplane in is re-roofed. All of the buildings are re-roofed. All of the buildings are getting new doors and siding, and I mean, a literal revitalization. And the big thing is going to be that we're going to have a new runway. I don't want to say a completely new runway, but it's going to be a very different runway from what we've had in the past. And that's going to make a big difference for Life Flight, which is providing health services year-round to be able to come in on our GPS approach that we have there, and bring in PC-12s carrying people at any time. And so you just need to realize things are changing. And this whole idea of a loaner car and connecting the city of Oak Harbor and tourism and all the cool activities that take place in Oak Harbor, they're going to get connected to the aviation community. And I'm one of many who fly out of Oak Harbor, and I go have lunch at Rosario, I go have lunch over at Jeffco, and all over the place. And there's a bazillion pilots and people that want to do that sort of thing and come to the island, which is the Whidbey Island connection, and go to Oak Harbor and utilize services there, and then come and utilize lodging services as well. So I just want you to know that we're here to make things better and make a big connection to the city of Oak Harbor, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Any members of the LTAC committee, either here or online, about the De Laurentiis Airport?
Yes, Larry.
A simple question, I guess. Has the airport looked at any alternatives to the cost of purchase of a new car, such as instigating an Uber in town, or having a rent-a-car dealer at your airport, or having some other mode of transportation that would potentially suffice instead of a brand-new car from LTAC?
Well, we're not, first of all, good question. Not looking at new cars. Don't need a new car to be a loaner car. In fact, I've been traveling all over the United States using loaner cars at other airports. I've only once down at Boeing Field used a new car. That was kind of strange. They're always used cars. Most of them are very, very tired cars. We're not looking for that. But the answer to your question, Larry, is that things are changing so rapidly. Robert De Laurentiis took over the ownership of this airport on July 26th of this year. When I look at the things that have happened there, it's just amazing how much work has been done. And the kinds of negotiations that he's doing with trying to get air service back in here, and there are so many moving pieces and he's the only show in town doing it. You know, it's not like he's got a committee. He's got a couple of volunteers, so I think the answer that will eventually be for you regarding that is looking at all kinds of different opportunities for that sort of thing. And the other thing, I'm on the IRTPO, which is the regional transportation thing for the county. Been on that for over a decade or more. And so I'm very, very aware. I'm a huge champion of buses. And we actually have a bus that goes right by Oak Harbor. When you talk to pilots that are housed at Oak Harbor, bus? Where? I mean, it's kind of surprising. They don't even realize there's a bus there. So one of my initiatives is to get a decent connection with the bus, with Island Transit, to have a good waiting area there. So it's pretty obvious that we have buses. But I can tell you that having flown and used loaner cars all over the country, yeah, I do look for buses if they don't have a loaner car. Now I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that there's transit there and whatnot. And all of the years I've done this, I've only used bus once. And it's the loaner car is the cat's meow to being able to do it. It just gives you the freedom. And so I just see this as a real good starting connection for our airport, connecting to the Oak Harbor community and the larger island community, frankly. So, thanks. Yes, Margaret?
In your application, you're looking at electric cars and having to put electric chargers and all this sort of stuff. Have you thought about starting on a lower scale and just utilizing gas cars? You said that you don't want new cars, just having a car available that's not going to require all the infrastructure needed for an electric car.
Actually, I think Robert's idea here, which I kind of support, because I'm an electric car driver myself. So, the thing about electric cars is that you can charge an electric car, and the things that we're looking at are the simpler ones that we can probably pick up for maybe 20 grand, and it'd be just a few years old. They'll do like 250 miles. So we can plug them in, and people don't have to, the users don't have to worry about gas at all. It gives them even more freedom, not having to worry about that. And the price of it is probably not a whole lot different than getting a decent gas car. Those take so much more maintenance. Now you're having to worry about whether or not the engine's getting all of its proper maintenance and oil changes and all that stuff. You don't do any of that with electric cars. The only thing you worry about with electric cars is windshield wipers and tires, and making sure it gets plugged in. And you can plug into a 110 volt outlet, you know, and which is what we would be doing if we were forced to. That's a slow charge. So.
I was reading over the grants Sunday, and I can't remember if it included in your budget. Are you going to be charging a fee for them to use these cars, or is this just going to be a free service?
Right now, I see it as free because it is so inexpensive to operate the cars. And typically, when you go to another airport and have a loaner car, there is no fee. The only thing you're required to do is put gas back in it to make sure that whoever comes next and needing a loaner car has got a tank full. So, but keeping in mind, they're all used cars, and these would be too. So, yeah, we just try to make it as easy as possible for people.
So this, and I'm going to go into a little more detail after everyone's spoken. This LTAC grant cycle, we only have 163,000 and some change. To put this in perspective, we had 367,000 in grant requests. So we're not even going to be able to fund half of the grants that come through, unfortunately. My question, which I'm going to ask many of the applicants, is you have a unique proposition that there are 3 totals in there. There's a 40,000, I think a 70,000, and 114. Let's assume that we took the bottom option of 40 and we agreed to fund a portion of it, say 3/4, because we're trying to spread things out.
Yeah, sure.
Does that mean, in your opinion, that the project still happens? These are reimbursement grants, of course. So is it a matter of you take anything you can get, or is it a matter of if you don't get this, the cars aren't coming? If you know, I know you're kind of speaking for Robert here, so.
Well, I truly am speaking for Robert, but he's very committed to this concept of the electric cars and moving in that direction, because that's where we as a society should be thinking. And I think personally, I think that he would be delighted if we even got one. You know, so it's quite uncommon in small rural airports to have more than one loaner car. Anyway. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident we would be tickled to at least start this process, having a loaner car there, and having it dedicated as a car for Oak Harbor.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Did you guys look into any kind of contracting with rental cars as well, something like an enterprise kind of contractual service to do that?
The answer is yes, and I think Larry kind of had a similar question. We'll get there. We may not be there yet because we've only been at it for a couple months. You know.
Wendy, you'll have to let me know if anyone on the LTAC committee online raises their hand, but I don't believe so. Okay. I appreciate coming and speaking to us.
Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Next up, we have the Oak Harbor Music Festival, and I think Cynthia Mason is online with us to tell us a little bit about that project and have the opportunity to ask her questions. Cynthia? It looks like you're muted there.
Hi. I can't, I'm talking, but they can't hear me.
I got you. We got you now. We hear you now.
Okay, good. Thank you for the opportunity. I actually want to thank Wendy very much for taking all the time to help me get all of the attachments to the application through to the members there for consideration. I don't have much to add, but I just wanted to make myself available this morning if anybody had any questions for us. For me.
Okay. Any questions from any members of the LTAC committee? You have a well-established event, so I think we're mostly familiar with it, but going once.
Thank you. We're very proud of it, coming off of a great, successful event this year. This was a little bit too close for my comfort for the application deadline, though, Brian.
The only question I have for you is, as mentioned, we're unlimited funds this year. Let's say I see you applied for 48,000. Let's say you were offered 75% of that, or say 35,000. What impact would that have getting, say, 35,000 as opposed to 48,000 on your operations?
It would pressure us for more fundraising, which I think our annual report shows that we have a really good base of supporters, both individually, businesses, and with our sponsorship program. Like all of the nonprofits, not only are we experiencing a decrease in donations nationwide, but we're also experiencing the cost of goods and how much things are costing us. I think the stages went up 35% this year in expense. So it would have an impact on us.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you for your time, Cynthia. We appreciate it. Thanks for applying.
Thank you.
Looks like next up we have the Whidbey Playhouse with their Come Laugh With Us. So I expect some jokes. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Hi, we're here from the Whidbey Playhouse. I'm Alana Jenkins. I'm president of the board, and I have with me
Sarah Galella, secretary. Teresa Fraser, treasurer.
Okay, and yes, come laugh with us. The Whidbey Playhouse is your community theater, and we've been open for 57 years. It was a church and was not recently, but was converted to a theater. We've gone through several evolutions, but what we're here to talk to you about is funding for the marketing of our upcoming season. If you want jokes, right now, Play On is on, lots of laughs. November, we have Arsenic and Old Lace. February, the 24th annual Spelling Bee. April, Cash on Delivery. And we're closing the season in June with Cinderella. And a lot of our programs are doing your shoulder season. We still have things going on all year. A bit about who we are and our mission. Our mission really is to inspire, enrich, and educate and entertain our community by providing exceptional theater experiences. Our vision is to be an essential element in the cultural lives of those in our community. And our foundational principles are to provide and deliver great performances, provide creative and educational challenges, and for actors and stagecraft, and we also have a lot of educational opportunities, and we really want to be involved in our community. We have scholarships, we participate in anything that is going on in the community, and our commitment to community is part of our mission, vision, and foundational principles, because our community is the most important part of our community theater. We're volunteer-based, and the role that the producer has is they have to market each of our shows. We've got a list of several things that go on involving marketing of the shows, which we're hoping that the LTAC grant will help us to support. I'm handing it over to Teresa, Treasurer, Financial.
Good morning. The Whidbey Playhouse has, this year our yearly budget is $160,000. That covers so many different things, but the least funded part of that is our marketing. for the whole season of probably 8 different productions with the season, last year we had a budget of $1,500 or $2,500 between show marketing and regular marketing. We went over that, about $900, had to pick up the slack from somewhere else. So this year, we were able to squeeze that budget up to $3,500. We have already, in 2 months, utilized 30% of that budget on different things like our chamber renewal, ads for Shrek and Play On. That's just 2 of our 7 or 8 different productions with the off-season productions. And clearly, it's not going to meet our needs. We really felt the pinch last year. We were really limited on the kinds of things we could do. We couldn't do any really as much outreach advertising like the ferries or different publications throughout the state, which bring in more people to our Oak Harbor. So we are really hoping to expand that this year. We've got a dynamite marketing chair with lots of different ideas. So this LCAT grant would be just phenomenal for us in trying to achieve some of our marketing needs. Sarah?
So we also brought in a few samples of marketing that we currently utilize that are the low budget. Business cards are pretty inexpensive, but they're very small. And then we also have a few brochures and programs from neighbor theaters that are very popular that just really kind of more identify our style in Oak Harbor that we would like to put this money towards. Yep, Anna Cordes.
Wake up. And that's who we're competing with.
Yeah.
And we don't have funds.
Yeah. And also with this grant, it would allow us to have a much more robust marketing for all the different productions that we do. Right now, we're also utilizing social media and word of mouth. Come see the show, because those are free options, but we could really do better than that. If we were able to go forward with this, with the grant money, we could also have more advertising on our website so that an out-of-town guest who's buying tickets or looking at buying tickets, they could also see about having dinner or staying over. 'Cause most of our shows typically end about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And for some patrons, that's too late and dark to drive over the bridge. So having an opportunity to say, hey, you could stay at this hotel would really, I think, be a boon on that. Our calendar, if you had any questions on that, please let me know, because I know what I submitted on the exhibition exhibits. It's how we look at it when you're producing a show as far as the order that certain things have to be submitted. And we're looking at bringing in about 7,680 guests just for our regular 5-season shows, because we seat 128 on a given performance. So it's a lot of people that we could be bringing in. And did you have any questions for us?
Questions, anybody?
You said average is 128 per show, is that correct?
Correct.
So do you have the statistics, how many is from out of town, how many people is from in town?
I don't have the exact number of how much it is, and it varies because some performances might have 60 people in the audience, and some might be a sold out.
Could I speak to that? We may not have the numbers, but we do have the traffic. We have people who come, say for hydros, and are here and then come to see the show. We have some of our own people who are in the show who have family from across the country that come and see the show. We've got a lot of people who are military and do fly in their family and friends to come and see the shows. So we're started attracting. We have people coming from Kentucky, Oklahoma, Florida, and we also had the one gal who came from Bahrain. Her family came. So people, when they're in town, they come to see the show. That's what our goal is, and to market the connection of staying in Oak Harbor, staying at the hotels, seeing the restaurants. And then we just have word of mouth again. Come and see the show. Our goal would be to be like in the Shakespeare Theater that in Oregon, that it's a destination to come and see us particularly. But we do get a lot of traffic because it's the nature of our town. People aren't necessarily from here, so they're bringing their family and friends to come and see the show. No numbers, but we do see the traffic. We'll have that next year.
This may become a redundant question. I'm kind of follow on what Chairman Stuckey said. Is this an all or nothing request, or if you get half or 2/3 or 3/4, will that help?
I would say anything would help, and that we've currently budgeted our season to have a successful season, because the show must go on. It's going on. However, it could go on a little smoother with your help. I think that we would see what we were able to receive and then go through that as a board and determine which show would benefit the most from that funds if we weren't able to get all of it.
But we do want you to consider us for some kind of funding.
Let's assume that you got the whole 15,000. The purpose of LTAC, and we got into, I would say there's some pushback from the council, because we take our recommendations and we give it to council, and there's some pushback from council last time of the difference between having things that bring people in, tourism, and just promoting things to do. With that in mind, this $15,000, an idea of a breakdown, how much of that would be used to attract off-island folk, and how much of it is it just advertising to people who already are living here? I mean, I know that that's not a super tangible question, but I'm kind of thinking, what's the breakdown? Is this mostly for ferries and out of town, or is this a lot of you already live here, come here, sort of a grant?
I would say that it's a bit of a mixture, because we want to have advertisements in the other theaters like Bellingham Theater and the Lincoln Theater in Mount Vernon, the Seattle Rep, if we could even afford that, the ferry system. Our ticket purchasing program or platform has a setup where when you buy your tickets, you have to put in your address and your zip code. So we can pull that information. However, if Teresa is buying tickets for all her out-of-town guests, she puts in her own address. So we want to manually collect that data when people are coming in to sit down, so that we can say, okay, this is exactly how many people this brought in from out of town.
And I do want to add that I do have family who enjoyed the theater so much last year that they're from 2 and 3 hours away, and they bought season tickets. So we are bringing in those people.
And back to like the ratio and the numbers, right now, we're really only able to market locally because our funds only stretch that far. With the grant, we can expand our net and our reach to draw from other areas in the greater Seattle area, but people come down, like we said, from Bellingham, and far south is Olympia anyway. But if we can expand our marketing net, we think that we can draw more people to our community.
Okay, any other questions? At the online? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you for considering us.
And I think I'm going to be there on Sunday to see your production, so I'm looking forward to it.
You won't be sorry, it's one of the funniest I've ever seen.
I've seen it 5 times.
Next up, we have the Whidbey Island Marathon. Is that going to be Sabrina? Okay, Sabrina, over to you.
So Tim, if you can pull up the presentation, please. Sorry, everybody, I have the start of a cold, so I'm sounding a little gruff. So the Whidbey Island Marathon Run the Bridge takes place April 20th to the 21st, 2024. Next slide. And as you know, this is a long-standing event for the city. It brings runners and their supporters from all over our country, the U.S. and Canada. This year, we saw a record number of participants. 1,794 people were participating. Of those, 70% came from 50 miles away, and 39 of our U.S. states, and then also Canada, as I said. All those visitors generated 901 paid lodging nights in hotels and motels. That number did not include the number of people who stayed in Airbnbs, campgrounds, or with friends and family locally. All in all, we estimate that well over 200,000 was most likely generated in hotel stays and another 250,000 in goods and services. The marketing, we are requesting $30,000 from the city to help support marketing, medals, shirts, and other logistics like ground support. And then Run for a Day. Next slide. Thank you, Tim. We like to say run for a day, play for the weekend. In 2024, we plan to bolster tracking features for the runners and their families and to work to get more vendors and food trucks from across the island for both the pre-race, expo, and finish line festival to encourage everyone to stay and enjoy the island longer. With that, I just want to ask if you have any questions, and thank you for hearing our presentation.
Questions, anyone? Okay, well, I will ask the one question that's been the theme, and then I have one additional question. The city is looking for $30,000. Let's assume that only 2/3 of that was awarded, say $20,000. I assume the event still happens, and that money comes from a general budget or something of that nature?
So what we'd have to do is, yes, rework the numbers, work with our consultant, Jared Loringer, and find out where we need to make some adjustments. So it would impact some of the extra activities that we'd have for that event.
And am I reading this exhibit correctly, showing historical data, that last year there was I'm going to round here, 137 in revenue and 110 in expenses? So did it make money last year compared to years prior? Or am I reading this incorrectly?
I'd have to dig into that a little bit more. Sorry, my understanding is they did make money, but I need to compare those numbers again to give you an exact.
Wendy, do you have?
Do you mind if I answer that, Sabrina?
Yeah, that'd be helpful, Wendy. Thanks.
So we did make money last year, but in the past, I guess, 10 years or so, we actually haven't made money, so we have a negative fund balance that we have to make up over time. So we're doing our best to have a positive balance every year so that eventually the bottom line will be green and we won't have to ask for money.
So that 63,000 in red, that's the fund balance, that's the negative.
Yes, yes.
Because you are right. It looks like historically it has now again, but not that it's about making money on the event itself. It's about the trickle down to hotels and other
but
restaurants and things of that nature. But
That's what we are looking at as a city.
it would be nice to not be in the red. Any other questions?
Yes, we want to get there.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. But we are going to, I believe, stick with you, assuming that you're going to be talking about the billboard. Are you handling that one as well?
I am.
Okay, take it away again.
Okay, so Tim, this is the electronic billboard presentation.
Did you hear that, Sabrina? It sounds like he doesn't have any actual slides for it.
Where is it located, Sabrina?
It was in the same folder, did it not? There, one sec, I'll pull it up. Sorry, I thought it was in that.
So there's only one slide and all the other slides are blank, Sabrina.
Oh, Oh, no, that's not good. Sorry about that. Okay, here, I'm gonna pull it up from my screen, and 1 second, I'll share it. Can everybody see that?
We sure can.
Okay, great. All right, so in regard to the electronic billboard, or what we talk about as the e-sign, this is located at Beeksma Gateway, and what's the next slide? There we go. And this sign helps us promote local tourism events and our business community. So the 2022 data shows an average of 17,000 cars are passing by the sign each day. Currently, so far this year, we've posted 70 signs since January, so it's being utilized a lot, and so that's really good news. And then the impact of the sign, it, as I said, it promotes a lot of our local businesses and gives information for that. Sorry. My slides are looking a little funny. The reason for the application, the sign is experiencing more technical issues. Usually the sign, we have no problem. We have a computerized system. We put the signs in, they go. But in this last year, we've noticed that there's been some technical issues with power connection, internet connection, display settings. It doesn't show up as bright. It's not switching out the slides or showing all the slides we put in. So staff wants to provide funding before the sign stops working and decreases our ability to message. So in the past, are you guys seeing the electronic billboard funding? Is that showing up?
That's the slide showing electronic billboard funding, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. So in the past, staff had applied for the 2015 LTAC grant, and that is what paid for the sign we currently have. We have attempted to address getting new funding to replace the sign. We added and removed it from the recent budget, and then we had it in ARPA funding and decided to remove it so that we could prioritize other activities. So alternatives, just so we're aware what happens if we don't have the electronic sign and it breaks, we would go to printed banners, which would increase costs for local organizations. It increases waste in the landfill. It creates a need to identify locations around the city to post those banners. It requires staff time for posting and requires some manual scheduling. Our automated system in the actual application allows us to schedule out all the different requests that we get and time them ahead of schedule. So that is the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. Questions?
Any questions?
Oh, we're all quiet. I do have a couple, Sabrina. In the application, just out of curiosity, it says the board is XX old. I assume that was to fill in later. Do we know how old that board is?
2015 is when we did the original application.
2015. And the new board that we'd be looking for, any idea, I mean, is it bigger, better? I mean, I understand replacing what we have, but is it going, what's the difference going to be? Is it going to be more visible? Do you have any idea what it might look like?
It probably would be similar to the sign we currently have. One of the things that we've been talking about here at the city is potentially trimming down the tree in front of it so that it is more visible for people to see.
I'm asking a question I kind of already know the answer to, but right now, if I have an event, we just let you know and you tend to put it on the board. Is there a screening process or anything like that?
So we do have a process. So we have a form on the city website, and people fill out that form, provide their graphics. Sometimes we may assist them with their graphics to make sure that they're better to read on the sign. We also comply with the requirements through our code that we don't have a white background on the banner. And then we review the sign and work with the person requesting it if there's any requirements or concerns about the messaging that they're putting out. Typically, our stuff, as I said, is for tourism. It's about our local businesses, events that we're having. Sometimes we do provide communications about emergency messaging during COVID. We used it a lot to remind people about vaccinations or closures. We also promote things that are happening at the city, applications for some of our boards and commissions, things like that.
And is this kind of from the city's perspective, you can speak to, is this kind of an all or nothing grant? Is this something that half of it gets funded and it might still happen? Or is this kind of an application we're putting in that if we don't get that money, at this point, we're not going to move forward?
So if we don't get that money, I would have to go back to council and find out how they want to address those missing funds. Right now, that is the cost of the sign. We did get a quote to find out what replacing that sign would cost. And again, my biggest concern is just if the sign fails, we don't have an alternative, and we've had some recent issues with the sign working properly.
And my last question, has there been given any thought, it could look a little too cluttered, about finding ways to use it for revenue? I mean, I understand that we're using it for tourism and that events and city things, but is there any thought of allowing, say, a business to advertise on it for a set price to try to recoup costs?
We have not considered that. That is something that, we could talk about at the city, but it has not been something that we've discussed before, no.
Okay. Before we move on, any questions from any LTAC members? Go ahead, Ken.
It's any requirements that any merchants in town that can use the board?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm trying to say, is any merchant can use that to promote the business, or is some kind of requirement to use the board?
So what we have is, like I said, we have a form. We've typically focused it, our primary focus, as we say in the form, is for LTAC related items, tourism, things like that. But we have done signs, as Margaret knows, that say, downtown business community this way, things like that to help promote those businesses. Things about the chamber, stuff like that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Sabrina.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, we have the Island County Master Gardeners Foundation. Do we have a member online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
excellent.
Brian. This is Kathy Lofton Day. I'll be presenting.
Yeah, go ahead,
So I'm
Kathy.
going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, good morning, LTAC members and fellow applicants. I'm going to talk about the Would-Be Gardening Workshop today. My name is Kathy Lofton Day. I'm the co-chair of the Would-Be Gardening Workshop, and my other co-chair, Carolyn Lanson, is also on the call. The Master Gardener, Island County Master Gardener Foundation has applied for funds for their 2024 gardening workshop. So you may ask, if hopefully you know about it, but you may ask, what is the Would-Be Gardening Workshop? It is a day of very exciting, informative classes, and it's on all aspects of gardening, so any skill level of gardener is graciously invited. It has been at the Oak Harbor High School for over 10 years now. Next year it will be held on March 2nd. 2024, and we have many people that come back year after year. It's a highly anticipated event. We have master gardeners coming from all over the state because they can get their volunteer hours during this, their continuing education. We have other gardeners that look forward to it from various regions. We've even had people come from Canada, from Oregon, from Montana, all over the Northwest. So why do we hold the Would-Be Gardening Workshop? It is the major fundraiser for our Island County Master Gardener Foundation. But you may ask, what is a Master Gardener? And it's interesting this year. This is a nationwide program that was actually started in Washington State 50 years ago. This is our 50th anniversary. So 2 Washington State University professors, extension professors, had found that they're getting tons and tons of questions from home gardeners. So they came up with the idea of teaching the teachers. So now all of the land-grant universities throughout the United States have a program called the Master Gardener Program, which teaches people how to instruct home gardeners on pests, on soils, on all things related to gardening. We have classes that are held yearly for Island County. I graduated in 2020. Carolyn graduated in 2021. We're both COVID classes, but it's been a wonderful thing for us to support. So how do we use these funds? I think this is really important to understand what we do. And
Can I interrupt you real quick? Are your slides
sure.
are your slides supposed to be advancing? I don't want to cut you off, but
Yes, they are.
Okay, so on our screen it's just showing the main slide.
Oh, do you know how I can fix that?
Hit
me
the
see.
okay. I mean, you can just move it manually. Like right now, it just moved to how do we support the community. So I mean, you can click through
Okay,
them.
so maybe I'll just leave it in this mode, so
Okay.
it,
That's
okay.
fine. Sure. Otherwise, the slideshow, but
Okay.
whatever you're most comfortable with. Go ahead.
okay. I'm just afraid it won't advance if I do that again. Okay. So, okay, so how do we use these funds to support? So one of the things that we do is we contribute basically thousands of hours annual helping local communities throughout the state. On Whidbey Island, we do horticultural environmental training on horticultural environmental stewardship. This helps individuals and communities help mitigate the effects of climate change. It keeps our waterways clean. It improves soil health and promotes pollinators, improves food security. There's just a whole long list of things that we help the community to improve. Okay, so what else do we do? One of the things that we do is teach people to grow food. We do that through workshops, on-site gardening at community food gardens. There's one in Coopville. There's the Lord's Garden in Oak Harbor. The gentleman on the left is Dave Thomas. He's run that for years, and we have a group that works with him. And in doing that, growing food and teaching people how to grow food, we've donated hundreds of pounds of food every year to local food banks. And in 2022, it was estimated that the donation had a monetary value of over $10,000. Okay. So what else do we do? We also have routine plant clinics that answer questions to gardeners. So we staff these at various places, at the Extension office, various nurseries, garden centers, Ace Hardware, and we're available to answer questions, any questions gardeners may have, free of charge, and they get science-based answers to those questions. Okay, another thing that we do is teach young people about the benefits of growing food. So we have a program on Whidbey Island right now. We're hoping to start it on Camino Island as well. So we have Children's Garden at Crescent Harbor and Olympic View Elementary School, and those teach young people the benefits of growing their own food. There's also the Junior Master Gardener program, which teaches children in grades 3 to 5, and that teaches them about plants and how to establish a thriving garden. And all of these activities are free. Okay, and then we also have a beautiful demonstration garden at our education garden at Greenback, and I encourage anyone that has not gone there to go. If you've gone, please go again. We have things new all the time. That's on 765 Juan Road in Greenbank. There's multiple different types of gardens there, so please, if you get a chance, check that out as well. And then we also support our WSU Extension office. This gentleman here is Lauren Imes. He's the director of our Master Gardener program on Island County. We provide also college scholarships with money that we raise, and support the foundation in general. Okay. I'm almost done. So I just wanted to also mention that we have extraordinary, amazing volunteers, and the workshop is put on entirely by these volunteers. I am a volunteer, Carolyn is a volunteer. Really, the things that we have to pay for are our advertising and our instructors. And both of those things are a major part of our budget, and that's what we're asking our the grant funding for. Without those, we can't bring people in from Whidbey. We can't bring people in from across the Northwest. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I have a couple, if you don't mind. So the first one, let's assuming that you got half the amount. Does the event still go on? Just it's a bit of a struggle for you, or is this your event reliant on this amount?
So I guess I can talk about our costs and our revenues. So our costs to put on this event are around $20,000. Our expenses, our revenue is for ticket sales are about $20,000 if the number of people come that we predict are coming. So without any funding from grants and sponsors, we don't make anything to do all of these things that I just listed. So we would love to be able to get all of it. If we don't, we just don't have as much money.
Sure, and being that you've done a couple of grants, I mean, you got one for 22 and 23, there is some reporting that goes along with that to get that reimbursement. So with that in mind and thinking back on that reporting, do you have an idea of, I guess first off, how many people, maybe you went over it, averagely attend the event, and also how many of those came from out of town, from off the island? Do you know a percentage or at a ballpark?
Right. So there are. Last year we had a little over 400 people. That includes attendees, instructors, volunteers, vendors. A little over 400 people. Now all of those people aren't paying people. The number of attendees that came were a little over 200. And I think I put in the report that we estimated that around a third of those were 50 miles away.
Do you know if, and I'm only asking this because of prior reporting, do you know if any of those stayed in local hotels at all? Do you have any of that data?
Yes, we did surveys. About a third of the attendees responded, and we estimated, I think we had about 68 room hours. Room days. Sorry.
Nights. I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions before we move on? No? All right. Well, thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you.
Next, we have Main Street. And if Margaret wants to go over to the podium, we will hear what they are proposing.
Good morning, I'm Margaret Livermore I'm the Executive Director for Oak Harbor Main Street Association. And just a quick little review of our grant. Our grant is for marketing of historic downtown. We are off the beaten path. Most people who come through the island go right past us and off to Coopville or up to Anacortes. So it's imperative for our small businesses downtown that we market heavily and get as much advertising out there about our businesses, about the events that we have, and we also help market the events that Chamber puts on or other people put on downtown that bring tourists to downtown, which benefits our small businesses. It is hard for brick and mortar small businesses to survive, especially if you don't have the tourists coming down there. So that's primarily what my grant's all about. Any questions? Thank you.
No? Okay. Short and sweet. All right. Next, we have the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce with one-of-a-kind Oak Harbor. I believe we have Maggie, the Executive Director.
Hi, good morning. My name is Maggie Aguilar. I'm the Executive Director at the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce. I first of all want to thank the LTAC committee for the opportunity to be able to present today and just to answer some questions, and also for the 2023 grant award. We really appreciate it. With a combination of strategic planning, marketing, and the creation of authentic events in our city, I am proposing the submission to the committee that includes two different elements. The first one, we are asking for LTAC support to continue the one-of-a-kind Oak Harbor marketing and promotional campaign. And the second element is support with the 2024 Independence Day celebration, which includes the fireworks and the carnival. In 2023, we were able to draw visitors in to encourage them to stay longer. We did this through a multi-platform marketing campaign. We used social media, streaming, target email distributions, and we were really drawing our emails, our targeted emails to people who were asking to travel and are asking for travel information. So we were able to reach 60,000 people in the states of Oregon, California, and Eastern Washington. And if you see on page 10 of the LTAC package that I submitted, you will see that the campaign was not only a success, but the percentage of people that came from Oak Harbor in comparison from 2022 was over 300%. And interestingly enough, we did a breakdown of where people were coming from based on their purchases while they were here for Independence Day. And they were coming, we had an increase of people arriving here from Oregon, California, and Eastern Washington. So that just shows that the campaign worked and is working, and so we want to continue with that momentum. And through that campaign, we were able to see how many people looked at the email, opened the email, what kinds of things they click through, what kinds of things they're interested in when they travel. We were able to expose Oak Harbor and our events to over 11,000 people. And the other element that I would like to talk about today is the return of the carnival in 2024 and fireworks. And it's been proven that thematic events obviously are a powerful tool to bring people to different places and locations as an incentive for travelers to stay longer and witness these events. We would like to move the Carnival and Independence Day festivities with the vendors to Windjammer Park in 2024. And the Chamber is politely asking for LTAC support to move Independence Day festivities to Windjammer by bringing in a barge so that we don't have to close most of the park due to the fireworks fallout zone. And as we move into 2024, our focus will still remain in providing the best and positive experiences to our tourists with, like you guys mentioned, word of mouth recommendations, and our visitors who are most likely to extend their stays for the future and bring other visitors with them. We'll continuously gather feedback as you've seen in our package. One of our biggest things is to survey our visitors. We do this at the visitor center, and we do it at every event, so we know where people are coming from and what kinds of things they would like to engage in. So again, just want to thank you for the opportunity to present today. We are very thankful for your support, and thanks for allowing us to be here to present today. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Open it up. Okay, I have a couple.
Sure.
One is with 4th of July, I believe, being on a Thursday. How were you going to, assuming, first of all, the carnival is not a guarantee for next year, is that correct?
We did sign a contract.
We did?
Yeah, we did sign a contract. We are pending the decision of a location, and we're still negotiating some of the money.
And how's that going to work with 4th of July being on a Thursday? Like, when would the carnival come? Like, would it be that
Right.
Thursday and on, or would it be a few days ahead of time? It's kind of an awkward point of the week.
I know, it is a tough year. So the goal is to have the carnival, they will arrive the week before to set up. They will have their grand opening on Wednesday, the 3rd, stay on till the following Sunday, which I believe is at the 7th. So they will have their opening day Wednesday, the 3rd, then we'll have the parade on the 4th, and we would like to move the parade to Pioneer next year, just to also contribute to the momentum of keeping businesses alive down there, and also to get people to visit the businesses. So we'll move the parade to downtown, and then with the inclusion of our new event, Would Be Wags, that will be on Saturday. So it will be a continuous week full of events. But yeah, it is a tough week just because the 4th of July does fall on that Thursday.
Last year, we awarded $65,000, which a lot of that was used for marketing that you haven't done before. Did you find some things that worked really well and maybe some things that didn't? I mean, how are you going to modify, now that you have a little more data, this year's plan compared to past year's plan?
I think with what we're looking at, and that is basically why I asked for the same number. So I'm not asking for more funds than I did last year, mainly because I want to be respectful to everyone else asking for funds. But also, I know what really worked in terms of promoting our city was targeted emails in our marketing campaign, because we're giving information to people who are asking to vacation in locations that are unique, that are different, and that have that small hometown feel. So we're giving these people the information that they already want. So that has been very successful. I do want to expand a little bit on search optimization and SEO data, just because when people search Washington, I would like Whidbey Island to be the first thing they see when they do a Google search. So some of those funds are definitely going to be used for SEO engagement, and also geofencing is really big, and I would love for people that are close to Whidbey or even Mokateo or anywhere close to us, that anything they see on their cell phone, we pop up right away. So some of those funds are going to geofencing as well. And I think with trying new things, just like I did last year, it's never a guarantee, but you find and you see what works. I think Spotify worked really well. You're just trying to meet people where they're at, really. So I know that a lot of people really do like the emails. A lot of people like text messaging. Spotify is really huge. So it just really depends on what platform people use. But to answer your question, I know that was a really long answer. But I do want to continue some of the elements in the promotional campaign, but also try some new ones. We are getting a lot of young people coming to Whidbey, and cell phones are huge. So that's why the geofencing is a big element.
Sure. And your application, of course, your requested amount is definitely the largest. It's about a little over a third of the total amount we have to award this time around. As the question has been asked, if there was a reduction in that amount, does that affect mostly your marketing reach, or is this something where like the carnival hinges on this amount?
Yeah, depending on the amount, I would have to go back and play with the numbers a little bit. The marketing would probably take a hit, as so would the events itself. It would definitely impact. So being a nonprofit, some of the other companies here today spoke. The bottom line for us is we always break even. Like we don't. Whatever goes into the carnival, we're asking for that in support and sponsorships. Obviously, sponsorships and donations are not as huge right now, so we try to go with other avenues. But I think the marketing might take most of the hit, just because after having a carnival in 2023, I would hate to not have it in 2024.
Can't sell $10,000 in crab cakes.
Yeah, definitely not. I wish. That would be a great problem.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Last year's grant, the $65,000 you didn't break out the 4th of July event. So actually, the marketing is less this year that you're asking for, and the rest is made up by the 4th of July event.
Yes, yeah, it is less. And then as if you see in the package, I didn't include. We still will target all of our other events, but we saw a huge increase in the summer and with Independence Day, so I want to focus with that and also focus on keeping people here or bringing them back during shoulder season. So yeah, you're right. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you, Maggie.
Okay, you're welcome.
And lastly, I'm sorry. No, not lastly. We have one more. Yeah, the Algar project. Do we have Sarah online?
Yes, hi,
Okay.
thanks
And
for having me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Could your team kindly let me present, please, so I can share screen?
Well, give us just a sec. We'll see if it can do that. I'm told you can already do that.
Oh, well, that's fun. Okay. Give me just a second here. While that is loading, my name is Sarah Scott. I'm the founder of the Algar Project in downtown Oak Harbor. It's the largest mural collection on the West Coast that folks can tour in one location. And it's all been privately funded and organized. If you're wondering who's the entity, it's me. And I have 20 years of experience working in nonprofits, organizing conferences, and working in the field of open government. And I own 2 commercial buildings in downtown Oak Harbor at 720 and 740 Southeast Pioneer Way. And those murals are showcased on the sides of retaining walls and the buildings at 720 and 740 Southeast Pioneer Way. We started in 2019 and have added 13 murals, currently displaying 11. The murals are designed to change every 4 or 5 years, each of them, and that brings more people downtown. The program and the design of this area was modeled after Wynwood Walls in Miami, which revitalized a community, neighborhood in Miami, and brought a tremendous amount of economic generation to that area. And so using that model, we see a growing number of folks coming to our project. Sorry, there was a bit of feedback there, who are tourists and say that they came because they came to downtown off of Highway 20 because they heard about the Algar project, that they otherwise wouldn't have visited at all. And these tend to be younger, more affluent. And I would also say we have a group of elderly and affluent tourists who are coming from out of state who are seeing the murals as they are touring the Pacific Northwest. That's anecdotal, but we do see from Google Maps that we get 50 to 250 folks per month who just route themselves to the Algar project. And then through our webcam, we're able to see that we get anywhere from 5 to 20 tourists who are coming through the murals to take photos and selfies and maybe stop at our selfie parking spot. The idea with the Algar project was to use the 6,600 square feet of parking lot space between the murals to become an outdoor event space off-street. It's the only off-street parking lot that is available to cars in downtown Oak Harbor. And so that space has been host to Oak Harbor Music Fest, to a farmer's market, to would be cruisers, to all of these different events. And we'd really like to up our game. The pandemic kind of slowed this down. And so this is the first time, and probably the last time for several years, that we'll come to the city of Oak Harbor for public funding. The ask is matched by private dollars and donations by other community members in kind and otherwise, and from my business. We hold the funding separately from the 720 LLC commercial buildings, and the funding request is for $28,040 with a in-kind or other match of $16,415. The projects are outlined on the proposal, and because I can't quite get my slides to get working here, I'm just going to go through a couple of those items real quick. So the proposals are to fund 4 new murals at a total request of of, sorry, my number isn't in front of me here, fund 4 new murals, including one that is a 2024 college scholarship mural for an Oak Harbor High School grad. The total ask for those murals is $11,450, and then we'll pair that with a nearly $5,000 in-kind donation to host events. And basically the idea is to paint these murals around the same time that Vancouver Mural Fest is occurring in August of 2024. Van Mural Fest attracts tens of thousands of tourists from our region, many of them who are driving up from Seattle. And we think that we can attract them off of I-5 to come and see this unique mural gallery and participate in events with the artists. And so I think that is one way to attract more tourists to Oak Harbor who otherwise would not have come here. And are folks who will spend money in the economy. And we certainly see that. Folks who go to the Allgaier Project buy lunch, it becomes additive to their trip, so perhaps extending their stays. They end up shopping in downtown Oak Harbor at small businesses, and it has a positive economic impact. So we're hoping to amplify that by piggybacking off of Vancouver Mural Fest and attracting road trippers who are going up there and back anyway. I'm just going to put both of these together for the sake of time. There's an ask for a public relations coordinator contractor for $8,000 and a part-time assistant to conduct in-person tours and to assist with social media, to do outreach to audiences, to bring them in. I totally agree with the chamber that using social media in a way where we are using geolocation to bring folks in is incredibly important. We have piloted that and seen results from that. And so the part-time assistant will also help with report tracking and events and at the Allgaier Project, along with providing, as in the application, live in-person tours on weekends, including off-season. There's a match we can access as a private business for 50% of the work-study employee's hours. So this is hiring a college student at 19 hours a week, part-time. And the federal work-study program, which is available to low-income college students, will provide a 50% match on their wages, including payroll taxes, reducing the amount that we need to ask the city for. But we think that will really help amplify our ability to attract folks to the space and produce more events as we're getting more requests to provide those. And I just don't have the time to provide staffing for all of those requests. You'll also see on our proposal some completely in-kind matches to the requests that we're doing, including adding QR codes to the murals so that year-round tourists can take self-guided tours via their cell phone and tour the art, get an explanation. So if they're not there on a weekend during a live tour, they can take an audio tour and hear about the art. And I think that will be attractive to folks and an ad for keeping folks in downtown and providing an activity that is free and fun to do. So I apologize that I'm coming to you like on the heels of having COVID and maybe not as sharp as usual, but I'm happy to take your questions. And also I will send in my slide deck after we're done here today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Open up to any questions from any of the members of the committee.
Maybe it's a statement or a question. I'm not sure. Obviously I drive down and back on Pioneer. Well, not back, down on Pioneer because it only goes one way. So I see your murals frequently, and I'm infatuated with them. I think they're awesome. You are talking what I would like to address, however, is you're talking about getting the murals fund and your entire project, because your project is more than just the murals. It sounds to me like you've tied into a lot of different avenues. My question is, are you, besides marketing the murals themselves in downtown Oak Harbor, do you have a process to market? Cynthia's not here, but much like some of our other very, very profitable nonprofits not profitable, successful nonprofits in town, where they market specifically donations from private individuals. I never knew there was an Algier project that would potentially be open to other donations from individuals that may have an interest in this. So besides asking us, LTAC, for money, do you have a process that you are also marketing for an income stream through the public?
Certainly. So a couple of things. One, in 2020 to early 21, we piloted merchandise and found that it was a bit difficult for just me to, in addition to my real world job that pays my bills and managing the building, manage the online sales as well. So hopefully the assistant can help a little bit with this like, just needs like 20, 30 minutes a day to kind of check in with the online sales. So hopefully if we get these new murals up, we'll have even more resources to create online merchandise, the merchandise that's also sold in downtown shops. PNW Vibes has reached out about having merchandise with our new high school scholarship mural. And we have reached out to individuals to fundraise before. I will say, one of the challenges is simply this, that you can either choose to be, like, look, I founded and ran a nonprofit for almost 10 years. You can either choose to be a nonprofit and have a huge overhead with these murals, an administrative overhead, or you can choose to have murals. and I have chosen to try to keep things as simple as possible by just keeping it as this separate line under my business, and be able to put money towards that. So that means sometimes individuals are like, look, I choose to give to things that are a tax write-off for me. So that's a no. Other times we've been able to get yeses and had matches, which have meant maybe $400 or $500 that have gone into murals. And in the proposal, you will see matches from private individuals who have already committed, such as the $500 commitment to the Boy Scout, the Oak Harbor Boy Scout themed mural. And so, yes, definitely have asked from private sources, but I think it's sort of, it's a new thing. It's under a different format. And so, and certainly, a lot of the revenue that we anticipated being able to bring in from outdoor events was difficult to do during the first years of the pandemic. And so this is a little bit of a request to help kind of kick us up into higher gear, not for us to be reliant on the city year after year.
I have two questions for you. One, being that these murals, for the most part, are on Pioneer, how do you work with Main Street? Or do you?
So to clarify, all of the Algar project murals are on Pioneer and are at 720 and 740 Southeast Pioneer Way. I wouldn't want to detract from the guerrilla mural arts efforts and the murals that have been created under that nonprofit across Oak Harbor. And then occasionally I do reach out to Margaret and to Main Street. I've offered up my properties.
Looks like we may have lost you. She gone? Disconnected? Okay. I think what we'll do is we can move on to the next one. And if she comes back on by the time we go to close, you can probably circle around back. Yeah, yeah. Unless we can give her a few seconds to see if she's doing the quick disconnect, reconnect. All right, I think we'll circle back to her. So let's go ahead and go with Wildcat Sailing. We got Larry. Wendy, if you see her come on, will you just send her a message letting her know we'll circle back? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Larry Munns. I'm the chairman of Oak Harbor Youth Sailing Foundation. We are the parent organization for Wildcat Sailing, which is a high school aged youth team, competitive team that sails. The foundation has been in existence for over 20 years. The Wildcat Sailing team has been in existence for about 8 years. We compete against 40 other schools around the Northwest area. To answer maybe a quick question, when we call ourselves a high school sailing team, we are not funded or supported by high schools. We're high school by nature of geography. The way the sailing world works is that we can only sail with kids within the confines of Oak Harbor High School's boundaries. So we're not out seeking free agencies from around the world. We have been in existence, as I said, for about 8 years, and we've been conducting multi-day high-level regattas right here in Oak Harbor for the last 6 or 7 years. We are not asking for marketing, very different than everyone else you've heard today. We are looking for supporting our operations for our tourism-related facility. We are obviously a nonprofit. That's where we fall into. Our facility is mobile, it's on the water, and it is what we have in place to conduct our regattas. What we're asking for is when we bring a regatta to town, we have 150 kids in about 30 boats with their parents and coaches. We attract 220 people or so for the weekend regatta. In several of our regattas from last year when we sampled, we also booked between 35 and 40 rooms in town. We do 3 of those regattas a year, spring, fall, and this last June we did a youth regatta in the middle of, obviously in the summer, which attracted about 60 boats. In organizing a regatta on the water, we require at least 4 on-the-water small powerboats. They do course orientation, they do safety, they do umpiring, and they are always on the water. Each of those boats typically, we're talking fuel now, burns about $50 in fuel a day. 4 boats, that's $200 we're asking for per regatta. We're anticipating 3 regattas next year, which comes up with the $600 that we're asking for in our operational support funds. Of interest, one of those regattas in May 2024, is a national team racing high school championship, which will be here. We'll be having kids from Florida, Long Island, across the country, and it's going to be an awesome opportunity for us to highlight the benefits of Oak Harbor. That's all I have. Any questions?
Questions? I have 2. Last year, it looks like we were at 1,200, and it says amount used to be determined. Is that because we still don't know if you're using the whole 1,200, or?
Our program goes through the end of November, so we're still working on that. And last year, it was more marketing related, so we are dealing with some of the funding, some of the marketing aspects to see if we're actually going to spend all that.
And what was the thought mentality by asking for only 600 this time? I mean, that's 50% of what you asked for last time. Is it just less marketing, or?
Obviously, I sit up there too, so I understand that there is a 50% issue that's going to come up this year. And by asking for operations, which is different than in other years, we were buying things as we quoted mobile marketing. We would buy basically uniforms that said Oak Harbor Youth Sailing, Whidbey Island, that all the kids wore when they competed in Portland, San Francisco, San Diego, and other places. So we called ourselves mobile marketers. This year, we're just going with operations. They're all here.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Sarah, are you back with us? I did have one additional question for you. In looking to hire a part-time person to help you, is that going to be somebody local to the island, or is this kind of just going online and finding like a Fiverr situation? Like, are you going to try to get someone local to Oak Harbor to fill that role?
That's correct. So, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So, yes, we would hire a local college student. Probably it would be someone who is remotely taking classes, maybe stayed in the town to be with her family, remotely taking classes at Western or UW. Unfortunately, Skagit doesn't offer off-campus work study, though I'm happy to approach them again and see if they might reconsider that, because they have so many students who go there and receive federal work study awards. And so, yes, it would be somebody local in the community, especially because they would be giving tours on weekends physically in person.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Ken.
I got a question for you is, if Downtown Association has other place you can put a mural, would you like to work with the Downtown Association members?
If I want to make sure I heard you okay, Ken. If the Downtown Association wanted to place a mural, would we work with them?
Yes, if you have other area they want to put a mural to promote downtown.
I think that's a great question. So I have kind of delineated Allgaier projects like footprint to the buildings that we have, and left like in partnership with Guerrilla Arts. So they've done so many of the murals in downtown and done a really fantastic job. So I support them in continuing to do so. However, if Main Street Association came to me and it was looking for support on a mural, I'd be happy to do so. We have a roster of dozens and dozens of talented artists that frankly we just don't have the walls or budget for, but are interested in creating murals in downtown. So we can refer to great artists, including local artists. We can also make recommendations on budgeting and resources to get that job done. So there's a lot of ways that we can collaborate with others who are looking to create murals in downtown. And that's actually been something that's happened ongoing for other small businesses and organizations, including the Garden Club, who came to me looking for an artist, and I recommended Timothy Haslett, who's created a mural at the Allgaier project. So it was exciting to see those kind of community partnerships flourish. And I think, Councilmember Stuckey, you had another question that I was in the middle of when Ring Central cut out. I just want to be able to complete that. And that is that we've coordinated with downtown before on things like open air Thursdays and having pop-ups in our location, having park benches put in so that folks could use the space before the pop-up park was created. And so I think we've had some good collaboration over the years there.
I have another question. Recently, I saw somebody put a mural in there for high school scholarship. So I think that's really, because my son just graduated from high school. How much you can work with the high school so the kids from high school, they can put a more mural, they can make some money, they can get some money for the high school. Could the two program put together to help more high school scholarship?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So when I over the years have built a collaboration with Kit Christopherson at the high school, who's the really talented, and we're so fortunate to have art teacher at Oak Harbor High School. And so he recommends his students who he thinks are going to have a real educational experience working on murals. And so we've had dozens of high school students over the years. We're probably at like 40 or 50 or more who have taken part in painting murals with professional artists, learning alongside professional artists in a way that they otherwise might not have access to that level of networking and skill building with a professional artist. And that's been really meaningful, as we've heard from Oak Harbor High School students. And we've posted as well to our social media about their experiences and their words from the high school students. And I would love to be able to offer more college scholarships to Oak Harbor High School students who paint murals. Right now, we were able to, with the merchandise sales we had from 2020, we were able to fund the mural that was completed this year in 2023 that went to a great artist named Kat. And then we'd like to be able to kind of jumpstart that program again by having a bit of funding from the city. It's a $1,000 college scholarship to be able to provide to a student, and then we'll match with the paint and other resources to help that student achieve it. But I'd love to do more and would be happy to explore with the city how to do so.
Okay, I think that's all. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
So thank you to everyone that presented. A quick breakdown. So this year we actually have in total $375,000 coming out of the LTAC funds. That's a little more than the city brings in. I like rounding. So 211,000 of that is based on 50,000 that we've agreed to give to the county, the Embrace Whidbey marketing. And the others are 3-year grants that we awarded just last year. So we're giving in total more than the 164,000. It's just those are already tied up with 3-year grants and the county. So as we mentioned, with only having 164,000, there are a lot of, I think everything that was presented is a wonderful idea. But unlike last year, we're going to have to make some tough decisions that will happen at next meeting on how we're going to narrow that down. So if you're not awarded or you're awarded a portion, please don't feel that that's because your event or idea didn't have merit. It's just because of the constraints of what we are allowed this year. Before we talk about our next meeting, is there any comments or anything anyone from the LTAC committee wants to bring up? It's kind of the good of the order moment. No? So the grading sheets are going to be due Friday. Do we want to say Friday by 4? Okay, so please get your grading sheets into Wendy and Chaz Friday by 4. Obviously, we're going to have to think hard next meeting how we're going to award those funds. That's going to be discussed at that time. Tentatively, we're looking to have that meeting a week from today on the 26th. Does this time work best for everybody that's on the LTAC committee? Do we like morning? Yeah? Okay, so 10 a.m. And when are we going to be able to have that meeting here again, or is that going to be? Yes, we should be. We're going to have it here. So if you want to come in person, we would love to have you. So next meeting will be 10 o'clock on the 26th. Grading sheets due by the end of the week. Anything I'm missing, Wendy, that we need to go over?
Just that the goal would then be to send something to the council for their October 18th meeting.
Correct. So we will have our suggestions for them next week, and then that'll be sent to council for approval. So thank you all for coming. Have a good rest of your day.